Or do you go by Joe?
Joey. Yeah.
Joey.
Yeah. So first off, obviously, the last 2 weeks being able to see how the front court with Nolan and Steven's been able to go. A high note here with Butler. How have you seen that grow over the last 4 games?
Well, I think the obvious one is Steve being more aggressive and more consistent, like he was on Saturday. So I think from all the games, all 4 of them, starting back with Michigan, there's things and different things that we've taken from every game. And that's not just the front court, that's team-wide. Things that we've learned that we have to be better at, things where we can accentuate some of our strengths, I think, which what we did a little bit better job of on Saturday in Indianapolis. But you're constantly learning and trying to move the needle, so to speak, and get better. And I think by playing the competition we have, it's put us in those situations where you're gonna learn a lot about yourself individually and collectively as a team, and most of the time you usually grow and figure things out faster when you face a little adversity. So all is not lost. I think those games were good for us, and now we have to use those experiences and keep moving forward.
Going back to the first possession of the last game, I think Steve you guys got Steve the ball. Was that intentional, or was that something you told the guys, hey, we want to get him going, or was that something that the guys, just knowing they wanted to see him get going, kind of took it upon themselves to make happen?
All of the above. I mean, we called the call we had on the first possession was intentional for him to be there. Now, we've opened or had that in the first 3 calls at some point in time, probably 90% of the games we played. So you just saw a really good result, right? He scored with it and was physical towards the backboard with it. So we've used that in the past. It's typically in the first series, so that I usually call 2 to 3. I script for him, but it was also talked about that Steve needed to be more aggressive. I mean, that's not a secret in terms of what the expectations were of him, and I think it's a credit to him that he played. The 17 minutes that he had, he took full advantage of those.
Going back to Nolan's recruitment, I remember when he committed here, he said before his official visit here, he kind of already had it in his head that he was going to Minnesota, and was pretty set on them, being that his dad played there, and said it was a meeting between you and Coach Kravinoff that kind of flipped him, where you showed how he'd fit in here, and maybe some of the other bigs you had. I'm just curious if you remember that meeting and what you kind of showed him, that where that light bulb kind of came on.
Yeah, I think we talked about him carving his own path and blazing his own trail, so to speak, and then just show him the lineage and the history we've had with guys like him. We've had several that have come in with size and skill, and then we help them get better. And I think for him, he realized that I think the bottom line too, he wanted to win. That was a point that we really drove home. You come here, you're going to win. You're going to play in the NCAA tournament. You're going to compete at the upper echelon of our league. And knowing his background and how competitive he is, and his background coming from Lakeville North and how much success they've had there, that was something that was really important at the end of the day. Winning mattered, and we want those guys that matters. It has to be in their in their top. Maybe it doesn't have to be the most important thing, but it better be something that they talk about in their top 2 or 3 most important things on why they want to go, where they want to go.
I know you said it time and time again, he's nowhere near his ceiling, but when he has plays like against Illinois and Butler, where he catches on the 3-point line, gets a guy in the air, and he's at the rim, and 1 or 2 dribbles, you kind of sit there as a coach and go, wow, sometimes the things he can do.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him do more things in practice than what everybody's seen in games yet. So for me, it's not surprising because I've seen it before, and you realize what the ability of a guy like that is. I mean, that's why we recruited him so hard, because we envisioned what he could be if he went to work at it, and he's just still scratching the surface in terms of what he can become as a player.
And sometimes it's more about who the kid is rather than the talent. What did you know about him and his background that made you believe he was going to put the time and the work in to eventually claw away at that ceiling?
Yeah, he's competitive. I think you look at him. I mean, he's a little better now physically when you look at him in terms of definition. That's starting to come, but I've always known he was really competitive, and you realize how I remember his dad when he played at Minnesota. Completely different player, but it had an edge to him. Played really physical. The league was much different then, where you could beat each other up and nobody would care. And he was part of that era in the 90s. So I've always known Nolan had an edge to him. You can just tell by looking in his eyes. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and it was just a matter of igniting that chip. And quite frankly, when we finished the year last year and came back from the tournament, I met with the team because we all knew what was going on with the world of college athletics, that the portal and NIL were going to be, a player. So I said, we're not going to ignore the elephant in the room. Let's go right at it. So I need to know, by a certain date, if you're back, anybody's back. This is all 17 guys. And everybody left the room. Nolan walked back in and goes, Coach, I'm coming back, but I want to fight for the starting spot at this 4 next year. That's my goal. That's what I'm going after. I said, all right, Tyler's graduating. It's an open race, but you got to put the time in to go get it. So I'm not going to hand it to you. You're going to have to earn it. And he's done that. He had a goal in mind last March and a mission he wanted to be on, that to utilize this experience he got as a freshman to build upon that and come back and do what he's been doing so far this year.
Steve said something on Saturday about, coming into this program, you want to leave it better than the way you found it. What do you think that says about the guys that you have in your locker room when you have goals like that?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the character. And you don't come through times of adversity without having high character people in the locker room, and that's intentional in terms of how we recruit. I think we attract people that are like-minded. They always say you're going to get who you're going to get through the recruiting, because there's certain personalities and mindsets that are attracted or repelled to a program. So having him say that as a fifth-year guy, when fifth-year guys sometimes could be in their own world thinking about themselves, he's still thinking about how he can help make this program better now, but also as he leaves, whenever that happens in the spring. So that's a credit to him. He's always been a team guy. He's always been we before me guy. Sometimes, as you've heard me say, he's too unselfish when he's on the court, but that's just who he is as a person. And I think we've got a lot of guys like that. The whole locker room, I think, really is like that in terms of they play and have pride in playing for what's on the front of the jersey, knowing that the back of the jersey will get taken care of and be in a good position, but you really get individual accolades through team success. I don't see a lot of MVP awards being handed out to an 8-25 team. So they understand we have success, the individuals will be recognized.
All right, Coach, serious question.
Yeah.
Best Christmas gift you've ever gotten? Max said, what do you say? Xbox One. I forget,
I'm not a
because I was like
gamer.
Atari,
Yeah, Atari way back in the day, yeah.
And television was my
I played
game.
Pac-Man and Donkey Kong.
Yeah, all that stuff. So
yeah.
the best one that you and
Frogger.
Jeff had to fight over, Cooper, your brother Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper. Yeah.
What did you guys fight over
man.
back at the Gard household?
Well, we were far enough in age difference that we weren't the same same time category, so to speak, of what was popular. So, man, I've had so many great ones. I never got a puppy. I always wanted a puppy for Christmas. I never got one. I got teased that I was going to get one a few times, but it never happened. It didn't happen until I became an adult where I could actually get my own dog. And I've had so many good ones. I mean, it's been my favorite. From when I was a really, really little kid, my uncle was a big snowmobiler, and I love snowmobiling, except my day job gets in the way right now. We don't get any snow down here anymore like we used to in the 70s, 80s. But I got this inflatable snowmobile, and I was like 4 years old, and I still have pictures of me on the inflatable snowmobile. That when I couldn't actually go ride around with him, he gave me the next best thing. That was an inflatable toy. So I don't have it anymore. I have no idea where it is. I probably poked a hole in it when I was probably 5, and my mom threw it away.
The
But-
dog that you wanted, or the puppy that was that the first dog that you ended up getting?
No. My dad always had hunting dogs when we were growing up, so I could always claim part ownership, but I wasn't the real owner until we have the one that we have now, that we've had for 8 or 9 years. So
With the Troy
Yeah, there are some. Yeah, obviously Mark has been there on 2 different occasions. There are some things. Yeah, I see some tendencies offensively, and I know they've had to deal with some roster shuffling here lately, and I know they play again tonight. But there is some things offensively in terms of some patterns that I recognize that I see. But they're doing some things with some 3/4 part pressure and a little bit of zone that Michigan State doesn't do. So there's some, but it's not a complete replica of Michigan State.
How do you describe Kamari's impact on the offense?
Well, I think, we've had really 3 guys here that come off the bench for us. And not that Xavier hasn't done a good job, it's just that it's ironic that it's 3 guys that are returning in Kamari and Carter and in Jack Janicki that really have found their roles and what this team needs from them and excelled in the role and embraced their role. So I think the thing for Kamari is he's really comfortable and excelling in his role, and obviously that role's grown. We talk all the time about remember where you were when you first transferred from Green Bay, and I had a hard time putting him on the floor because everything was 100 miles an hour and out of control, and ball was flying everywhere, and we had to learn a few things. So for him to make the improvements he's made and grow how he's grown, and then really embrace his role of being that spark plug, for us off the bench, he changes the tempo of a game on both ends of the floor. So and he really enjoys coming in and giving us that shot in the arm. And I think Gilly and Jack do similar things, albeit different roles, but all 3 of them really enhance us when they come on the floor.
How has he evolved as a leader over the years, Kamari?
Yeah, I think experience is always the best way to grow leadership. You have to be here and have done it. You can't talk about things that everybody else is supposed to do when you don't do them yourself. So typically leadership falls in the laps of older guys just because they've been here and have done it more and have some street credit, so to speak, with their teammates. That's the thing. You have to have credibility with your teammates before you can really open your mouth and get any mileage out of it to really have an impact. So they see how Kamari works and how he plays, and obviously his experience. He is a voice. He's an important voice. I hear him all the time at the end of practice, huddles, locker room stuff. He's very positive, but he also sends direct messages to the group and individually too. He's not afraid to call somebody out and then rally everybody together.
Coach, would you say the experience from like Steven Crowl, Murray McGee, Max Klessman has been a strength for you guys even through the 3-game losing streak and bouncing back against Butler?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I mean, you lean into experience when things are going well, and experienced players have just that, a lot of experience. So they've been through highs and lows. You're not going to have a clean slate or a smooth highway all the time. You're going to go through struggles individually, like Max has gone through, and every shooter has. You're going to go through ups and downs as a team. But I think when you have leadership and older guys that have been through it, they understand it's not a time of panic. Or maybe younger guys or less experienced guys think the sky is falling. They understand, hey, no, you go back to work the next day and let's get better at the things that we didn't do well and move on to next, because next comes pretty fast. That's the one nice thing about basketball versus football. I like football, but I could never coach it because I wouldn't want to wait 7 days to play the next game. We were able to turn the page pretty fast, and if you got a bad taste in your mouth, you get it out pretty fast. So the older guys have done a good job of that.
Thank you, Greg.
All good?